In this video, we'll take a look back at a funny and exciting movie from 2009 called Land of the Lost. The movie starts with a man wearing a spacesuit who is lost in a dark and swampy area. He gets scared and starts running through the water and trees. Unfortunately, he trips and falls into the water. When he gets up, he sees a dinosaur approaching him in the reflection of his helmet's visor. Next, we see a talk show on TV where a scientist named Rick Marshall is being interviewed by the host, Matt Lauer. Rick is trying to promote his new book, in which he claims that humans can travel to other worlds by crossing dimensions. The host doesn't believe him and even refuses to let him smoke a pipe on the show. This makes Rick angry, and he walks off the set but quickly comes back to attack Matt. Then we cut to a classroom where Rick is giving a lecture about his theory. However, his students make fun of him and he dismisses them. At that moment, a young woman named Holly Cantrell enters the room. She's from the UK and has sought out Rick because she genuinely believes in his theories. Rick is now less confident, but Holly shows him a fossil that is millions of years old and has an imprint of his lighter on it. Later, in Rick's apartment, he has fallen asleep after eating too much junk food. Holly arrives and finds him surrounded by empty food wrappers. She also discovers his tachyon amplifier, the device he thinks can transport them to another dimension. When she turns it on, it unexpectedly plays a show tune song. Having convinced Marshall to test the amplifier together, we find them both in the desert. They stop their vehicle and enter a shop where they meet the owner, Will Stanton. He tries to sell them different fireworks and other worthless items, but they politely decline. Instead, they ask him to guide them to a cave. Inside the cave, Stanton is paddling a small boat along a stream. He is lively and tries to engage them with his dramatic stories and props. However, they are more interested in monitoring the levels of tachyon energy, which annoys him. As the signals become stronger, the scientist increases the power of his machine. Suddenly, an apparent earthquake begins, described by Marshall as the most powerful ever experienced. The stream turns into a rushing torrent, carrying the boat along with increasing speed. Unfortunately, the amplifier gets lost during this chaos. Eventually, the three of them are carried over the edge of a steep drop, and we see them plunging into a deep abyss. They wake up in a vast sandy desert, with numerous planets and moons visible in the sky. This confirms Marshall's theory about time. They notice a Viking ship with a crashed plane, and the scientist starts filming a video blog of their journey. However, their recording is interrupted by a yelping sound. The three of them quickly climb to the top of a sand dune, where they spot two ape-like creatures attempting to harm another creature. Stanton, however, distracts them by showing his lighter. Behind an ancient monument, the intended victim of the attack, Churka, is hiding. The three adventurers trick him and try to make friends with him. Holly talks to him and finds out his name. Marshall annoys him and he starts running away, so Marshall tries to chase him. They don't chase him for long because they all fall into a hole in the desert and end up in a cave. Inside the cave, Holly tells Churka that Marshall is a great leader. This convinces their hairy friend and calms him down. But suddenly, they all get caught in the air by some vines. They realize they're trapped in a place where the creatures are fed. They try to swing across the cave to free themselves, but then they come face to face with a T-Rex. In the chaos that follows, the vines break and the group manages to escape. They run along a path with the dinosaur chasing them closely. They think they've lost it when they cross a narrow bridge. Marshall starts making fun of the T-Rex, saying its brain is as small as a walnut. But the T-Rex jumps over the gap and keeps hunting them. They quickly find shelter in another cave with a smaller entrance. The predator can't get inside, so it gives up and leaves them. However, before leaving, it covers them in its saliva. Inside the cave, the group discovers the remains of the previous people who lived there. Before going to sleep, they discuss whether Churka should be allowed to stay. Marshall disagrees with the idea. Holly then asks Churka why he was going to be killed. He explains that it was part of a plan to overthrow him. They agree to let him stay. The next day, the group is hungry. Marshall is busy recording a video log about how he would cook and serve Churka. Churka returns with a bunch of large fruits. Marshall opens one and finds insects inside. Churka starts eating them. He asks if they are friends now. Suddenly, Marshall starts feeling a message in his brain. He follows the feeling, and his friends follow him. They arrive at an ancient temple that seems deserted. In the center, there is a big vibrating crystal. Stanton and Marshall touch the crystal and start singing. Their local companion tries to warn them about something nearby, but they only hear the words chorizo taco. He was actually trying to warn them about the Sleestaks, a group of lizard men who appear and surround them. Marshall uses the light from Holly's belt buckle to distract the Sleestaks. This opens a triangular portal in the crystal. They enter the portal, thinking they are safe. Inside the portal, they find themselves on a floating crystal with another creature, but this one is wearing a tunic. He introduces himself as Enoch and admires Marshall's work. He warns them about an exile named Zahn who wants to take over the Earth. Enoch suggests that they can stop him with Marshall's amplifier, which he says is nearby. However, Enoch must stay in the pylon to protect his crystals. As they set out to find the amplifier, Stanton comments that they should never trust a man in a tunic. To protect himself from the dinosaurs, Marshall covers himself in their urine and tries to drink some. It doesn't work. They come across an area with the Golden Gate Bridge where smaller dinosaurs are attacking an ice cream seller and two bigger dinosaurs are focused on them. A chase begins, with Marshall as their main target. He tries to evade them by pretending to be a statue and hiding in a stretch Hummer. But his plan fails. However, when he finds a container of liquid nitrogen, he gets a brilliant idea. The three friends use an old catapult to launch something high into the air and into the Allosaurus mouth, which kills it. It explodes and reveals that the amplifier was actually inside the dinosaur's stomach. But just as they try to retrieve it, a pteranodon swoops in and snatches it, flying away while the music from the chorus line continues to play. Marshall feels like giving up, but his friends are frustrated with his attitude. After thinking it over, Marshall returns to their campfire with a banjo and starts singing. While he sings, a mosquito-like bug lands on his shoulder and starts sucking his blood. It keeps growing bigger and bigger, draining Marshall's energy and making him look older. Suddenly, Marshall collapses on his back, crushing the now huge bug filled with blood. The next day, the friends climb up a volcano and reach the top, where they find a nest of pteranodon eggs blocking their way to the amplifier. Stanton and Cheka are hesitant to help, but Marshall carefully maneuvers between the eggs to retrieve the important equipment. Just as he picks it up, the music stops and the eggs begin to hatch. However, Holly suggests that the music acted as a lullaby. Marshall starts singing again, with support from the others. Even Cheka joins in, and they make their way back without any obstacles. They successfully complete their mission, and a celebration follows. The group arrives at an abandoned motel and starts partying around the pool. While the three friends enjoy the party, Holly takes the amplifier and explores the surrounding area. Suddenly, they encounter a giant crab that gets sucked into the ground and quickly emerges as cooked pieces. As they continue to enjoy the celebration, they express their feelings for each other while feasting on the giant crab claws. In a nearby glade filled with crystals, Holly meets Zahn. He warns her that they should actually fear Enoch, who plans to lead an army of Sleestak to take over the Earth. Before Zahn can finish speaking, Enoch shoots him with a beam of light, and one of his lizard-like followers grabs Holly. When they realized that Holly had been taken, the other three people decided to go and find her. Inside a cave, Stanton and Marshall thought they were witnessing two lizards about to mate. But in reality, the lizards were shedding their skins. The men then put on the discarded skins and made their way to Holly's execution. There, they revealed their true identities. Unfortunately, they were sentenced to death for trying to help Enoch, who had been banished and forced to wear a tunic as punishment. A struggle ensued, and Marshall managed to rescue Holly from a cage hanging above a fiery pit. After bringing her to a safer place, Holly passionately kissed the scientist. However, their moment was interrupted by Enoch, who used his powers to divert the attention of a T-Rex towards Marshall once again. Enoch sent Holly away with some harsh words. Stanton, scared and unwilling to help, grabbed a stick and used it to pole vault himself into the dinosaur's mouth, which was quite unbelievable. While Holly and Stanton unsuccessfully fought against the Sleestak, Marshall returned riding the T-Rex. With the T-Rex on their side, they emerged victorious in the battle. However, the others were disturbed to discover how Marshall escaped from the body of the ancient creature. Later, back at the pylon, the friends confronted Enoch and a fight broke out, causing a crystal to fall. As the gateway back to Earth seemed to be fading away, Marshall took a small crystal from Holly's necklace and used it to replace the lost one. Marshall and Holly held hands as they headed towards the exit. Meanwhile, Stanton decided to stay in his new home. In the final scenes of the film, Stanton and his friend Cheka arrived at Cheka's settlement and were warmly welcomed. Stanton found himself surrounded by a group of curious female inhabitants who poked and prodded him with fascination. Contrary to what Cheka had said before, they look amazing and they're wearing revealing clothes, so the human is happy with his choice. Meanwhile, in the real world, Marshall confesses his love for Holly in the cave. They'd also informed Stanton's co-worker that he has decided to stay. Finally, the scientist goes back to the same TV show once again to celebrate his success. He gives the host a dinosaur egg and reveals his new book. We find out that the book is called Matt Lauer Can Suck It. This time, it's the host who gets angry and tries to fight with his teasing guest. As the credits appear on the screen, we see a shot of the abandoned dinosaur egg shaking and getting ready to hatch.